Good morning, everybody. My name is Gurjeet Singh from Enterprise DB. I'm a database architect over there. And first of all, this is not a good start, but let me start with an apology. Scott. Hey, long time. So let me start with an apology. I'm sorry I'm so late, and my computer froze up on me. So just a small talk. Nothing new, I think, for most of you guys, because whatever I'm going to talk about over here is probably what you already know, but it's just a gathering of all the ideas that I have, why you should not move away from Oracle, or you would not want to migrate away from Oracle to Postgres. So we'll just compare the business perspective, like if you're a manager, why you would want to keep your Oracle, and the technical aspects, if you're a developer, why you would want to keep Oracle, or maybe not. So this comparison is supposed to be showing you both the sides, and I hope by the end of it you'll come out saying, okay, I can switch away from Oracle, although the title is otherwise. So if you love Larry Ellison, you can you can give more money to him without even buying a support contract or anything. So, or if you want to buy him something pretty expensive like another yacht or a private jet or a sailboat racing or something. I think I made some mistakes there, but yeah, you get the idea that he's already pretty rich, and if you want him to get richer, yes, you can always go there. That's your personal preference. Why you would want to get into Postgres? You love open source software, and you hate Oracle. You have been tired of Oracle, its support team, or maybe its sales team, pitching you the projects, products, the features that you don't really need. Or maybe you just hate Larry Ellison that he's so rich, and you don't want to contribute to his empire and all. And you probably want to own some big things of your own. You want to save money for your company, save money for your business, or business team, business organization within your bigger company. Have big ideas for yourself. You can save money for that. From cost perspective, Oracle costs money, and it's not small amount. It's a big money. But you get a lot of features in return. There's no complaining about it. It's the most advanced database product out there. It gives you everything that you probably might need out of a database. But the question is, do you really need it? 80% of the user base of Oracle probably uses no more than 20% of its features. The same plain triggers, tables, views, functions, maybe objects, a few other things. But rest of the advanced features that they have developed, they are used very rarely. So if you are happy with your Enterprise DB XE, not even Express, I'm sorry. With your Oracle XE edition, Express edition, probably you don't need Enterprise edition, then I think you are a good candidate for moving over to Postgres. Customers are sold features that they might never use, and that's a typical complaint from the customers, existing customers, that they were sold features like RAC or maybe Data Guard that they were told that okay, you will need it in the future, but they never got to implement those because they never figured on their requirements probably. But they got those features just because they had to pay for it, and the sales team pitched it to them. From cost perspective, Postgres is free, and it's much more free than even MySQL, because it's BSD licensed. MySQL was GPL licensed, controlled by one company, got bought over by another company, bought over by another company, and all the customers that were relying on MySQL are now stuck with that big company that's probably trying to screw them. So it's BSD licensed. What does BSD license mean? You are free to do whatever you want. No single entity in the world owns this project. Today, if the core team of Postgres project itself, if they give up saying, okay, I don't want to develop it anymore, you are free to copy that source code, develop it, rebrand it to your name, relicense it to any other person, sell it, give it away for free, whatever you wish to do. BSD is that free, even freer than GPL. Postgres has comparable features to Oracle, and the feature list is growing. So if you have attended today's keynote, you have seen the past 25 years of Postgres, you have seen the next 25 years of Postgres. The kind of features that are coming to Postgres are probably like now at the stage that are not available even in other commercial databases. So it's a very good product and a very good project itself in terms of community interaction, development community, and other aspects of a community. So from cost perspective, you get a lot from Postgres. A shameless plug from Enterprise DB is Postgres plus Enterprise DB Advanced Server. So Postgres Plus is a rebranding of the same product, same project, the Postgres itself, but it comes with a lot of other add-ons that are out there that are developed around Postgres. So that's called Postgres Plus, and then we have Advanced Server, Postgres Plus Advanced Server. That is a cheaper alternative to Oracle that gives you Oracle compatibility for stored procedures, triggers, table syntax, query syntax, etc. And you can help our CEO, Ed Boyajian, buy another yacht. So from support perspective, again, Oracle costs big money, but it gives you, in return, service level agreements. You have guarantees saying, okay, with your queries will be returned or responded to within 24 hours, over the weekend, or maybe not, those things. So if you pay money, you get appropriate service level agreements, you get responses, your things get fixed and all. You have to be a really big customer. They have like internal standards of customers, gold customer, platinum customer and all. You have to be at some level to get some kind of fixes. If you're running into a JDBC driver problem, or if you're running into a product related problem itself with respect to the queries and all, maybe some corruption or a crash. If you're not a big customer, you don't expect to get quick responses or even fixes. Smaller or less impacting issues are delayed to next release. That's the case with any product, even with Postgres, and that's a sensible thing to do from development perspective. But I just wanted to highlight it that, okay, if you are a smaller customer and if you have a problem and the problem is not that big for the overall product, it will get delayed. From support perspective, if you want, you can go to Postgres. You have mailing lists that are absolutely free. You are free to join them. You are free to ask the questions. You are even free to answer the questions. And they don't cost you anything. They have very quick turnaround times. The best turnaround times from any aspect, I would say, as compared to any other project. They also have IRC channels, a very great, very active IRC channel. You get onto that. If you are so impatient that you cannot get your answers, like you cannot wait for your answers over mailing list, emails, you can get on the IRC channel instantaneously. There is a great community. They are there to help you get the solutions. But the thing is, you don't get any service level agreement. There is no guarantee that your question will be answered or even it will be solved, even if somebody is answering. They'll say, yeah, this cannot be done as of now, and that's all. And you'd have to just go back and work around that limitation or missing feature that you wanted to use. But if you are still stuck on Postgres, if you still want to use Postgres, there are many commercial companies out there now. Enterprise DB, Second Quadrant, OmniTI, Fujitsu, like over in Japan you have like entity open source solutions, those divisions. There are many companies now supporting Postgres. If you have questions, you can buy support licenses. You have service level agreements tied to them. You'll get responses. They have dedicated support teams. They'll answer your questions. They'll get your solutions implemented. If you have any development related issues, they'll get solved. Production level issues, they'll get solved too. And they have quick turnaround times, but again, tied to SLAs, typical to any other commercial company. And they are much, much cheaper than Oracle. If you want to go ahead and check out their prices, you'll find you'll be really surprised. When compared to Oracle, they are really cheap. Another great thing about Oracle is it has a great ecosystem, a very vast ecosystem. If you are a manager who is responsible for managing a database or a team who is using the Oracle database, you won't have any problems in the sense If somebody quits today, you know you can put up a job requirement. Tomorrow somebody, maybe 100 resumes will be on your desk saying, okay, I'm ready for the job, because Oracle is so vastly used. It has forums, it has mailing lists, it has its own like third-party support units. And Oracle itself has its own vast knowledge base, Oracle technology network, and all those things. So from, like, if you're a manager, you would still want to stay on Oracle because you have resources that you can replace if you ever get into trouble, or you can even add more developers, DBAs, whenever you want to. You get certification out of it. Oracle runs an Oracle University. They have a whole division of education teaching Oracle and different products, different aspects of the product. You can get your workforce certified by Oracle, saying, okay, this is a silver level DB, or maybe some, what do you call, Oracle certified associates and all. So you get certification from Oracle too. The market is full of developers and DBAs, so you are never short of a DB or a developer if you want to hire one. Postgres ecosystem is growing, and it has been growing for quite a few years because of all the visibility, all the work that the community is doing. Community is trying to pitch Postgres to users that have never seen before, never heard of an open source database before, or who have a bad picture of open source database based on what they saw in MySQL or maybe other products. So Postgres is a very, very solid database, stable database, but it's just that the visibility is not there. It's not pitched enough. Now, the community itself has a very great initiative behind it to promote it in the press articles and online media, like news media. But the commercial companies are also getting behind it. And when the commercial companies get behind it, that gets promoted. And you can see from this graph, the percentage increase of Postgres-related jobs has been growing for quite a few years now. As compared to the others that have stayed stagnant, although they might be great in numbers, but you can see Postgres jobs are increasing. So if you're a manager, hopefully you will not have any trouble hiring a new developer or a DBA. And from other aspect also, even if somebody doesn't know Postgres, you have free mailing lists to learn all about Postgres. It's a very small database from configuration, or it's from zero configuration perspective, so you don't have many tweakables, everything that needs to be tuned. As compared to Oracle, you have huge number of tweakables. Instead of just feature names or parameter names, they have parameter numbers. So when a bug gets fixed, that gets a parameter number, and you can switch on or off that parameter to work around that bug. So there are a huge number of tunables in Oracle as compared to Postgres. Postgres is very minimal. I think it's 200 or so. And the most used or the most visible parameters to a user are maybe 15 or 20 of those. So it's very easy to manage, very easy to tune. From application ecosystem, almost every database-related application, every database-driven application starts with Oracle as the base. That's the kind of penetration they have got, because from university, from school, from any training institute that you go to in any country, the first thing that they teach you about databases is Oracle, not database. So it's like in India, instead of calling it a photocopying machine, we call it a Xerox machine. It's like that mindset. If you call database, it's Oracle. So that's the case with many developers, many students in the universities and all. So that's what happens with application development also. So somebody starts developing a new application, they have a great idea. What do they start with? With Oracle, because they have an Express edition that's available for free. And then when time comes to buy and all, it gets painful. But that's what you get. It's a great product, and it's being used quite heavily. Almost every application starts with Oracle as the base. It has connectors for every major language. So if you are developing in Visual Basic or maybe a Java or .NET or whatever language you are choosing to, you have connectors to connect to Oracle from that and start working. They have different types of applications. Every application that you can think of that can store its data in a database works with Oracle. Even many open source software solutions or applications, they start with Oracle as a backend. One of the biggest example is, not biggest example, but something that I'm aware of is Red Hat started a satellite network and they started with Oracle as the backend. And now they are trying to migrate away from that. So in Postgres, so yeah, every application now, because of the visibility Postgres is getting, because of the comparison that people do with MySQL versus Postgres, both are free of cost. And when from feature perspective, it can be compared to Oracle, you get it for free. Now people, anybody who's aware of Postgres will try to even at least start developing with Postgres as the backend. And if possible, he will try to migrate away from Oracle to Postgres because it's free, because it has like all the shiny features that Oracle gives you, but free of cost. So again, as I said, Spacewalk or satellite product from Red Hat was started with Oracle as the base, and it still works with Oracle, I think. And it's been a few years that they have tried to migrate away from that. I'm not sure about the status of it, but yeah, that's an example, excuse me. Postgres has connectors for every major language, ODBC, JDBC, .NET. If you are developing embedded C applications like SQL embedded in the C, you have ECPG for that. So every major language, every major binding is available. Excuse me. From openness perspective, source code, not available, not visible. You cannot do anything with Oracle. If you want to add on a new feature, you cannot do it. If you wanted to pay somebody to do a new feature for you, you cannot do it because Oracle controls that source code. If you wanted to implement a new kind of index, or if you wanted to implement a new kind of stored procedure language or anything else, you have to go to Oracle, request that feature, pay upfront for it. And generally only the biggest customers do that. I've seen people do that because they require those features. And it's a very expensive proposition. No public visibility, but Oracle hires white hat hackers to try and hack into Oracle and try to fix it in-house rather than getting exposed in the public, in the open. So it's a solid database, no need to be concerned about security and all, but it's just that it's closed source. The same problem if you have ever compared Linux with Windows, you have the same problems with Oracle versus Postgres, I would say. A single owner, so decisions made by that company are the ones that are applied to the product. No public contribution except as bug requests or feature requests. So if you file a bug, it might get fixed. If you want a new feature, you can just request it. You might not even get it ever. And it's a humongous code base. I have worked for Oracle internals, with Oracle internals in a server division. And I have seen the code base. It's a 25 years old, maybe now 35 years old database. And it's been maintained, but very painstaking process. The naming conventions, etc., are from the times when the C compilers were not that sophisticated, so you had to use only 8 characters in the function names. So those pains, they are being carried forward even in today's development environments. And it's a complicated database product. People, I'm sure, there are people who have worked there for 20, 25 years. They might know most of it, but the rest of them, probably nobody has a clue about what's going on in that. So it's only the regressions that they have that are keeping them safe. So regression testing is keeping them safe. Otherwise, yeah, nobody knows how to modify or change a piece of code. Source code of Postgres is BSD style. BSD style license, it's not exactly BSD because a few words here and there, that's the change between BSD or difference between BSD and the Postgres license. But that's pretty much what it is. It's a BSD licensed project, and it's available to anyone to do anything with it, commercially, non-commercially, openly, non-openly, like privately. It's open for public scrutiny. Contributions are welcome from public. The community is so welcoming. They add people to the community as and when people show their caliber that they have come up to the stage where they can start taking the responsibility. So community is actually growing at the lower levels and at the higher levels also. It's not a centrally controlled organization. The users of Postgres project benefit from a vast community and the community's contributions. The latest example is the SSI feature, serializable snapshot isolation, that Kevin, Kevin over here, he contributed along with Dan Ports. The thing I'm trying to show here is it was very recently that it was proven, in at least academically, that this can be done. And Postgres is the first product, production level product, that has implemented this kind of feature. And it's a very advanced feature that other products don't have. So this is the kind of contributions that come from community, and they help the rest of the people who are using or involved in the project in any way. Whether you are a manager or a company backing it or a company that is using Postgres, in every way you are benefiting from this contributions from the public. Pardon? Kevin is here. So yeah, no, you're more than welcome. If you want to take over the mic, that's okay. So now we come to the technical aspects. Till now we have been thinking about, like, as a manager. Now let's come down to the developer level. If you're a developer, what do you require? You're developing an application, you require ACID compliant database, something that gives you these properties, that gives you a peace of mind saying, okay, once I have done something with my database, that database is going to keep my data safe. ACID says atomic transactions. The transactions, if they are running concurrently, they should not interact with each other. One transaction cannot see the data modified by the other. Consistency says the database is always in consistent state. If a piece of data is available, it has passed through all the foreign key constraints, all the primary key constraints, all the nulls, check, triggers, everything. So the data that's visible to you is sane, is safe, it's clean. Isolation of transactions says one transaction cannot see the work of other transactions. Sorry, atomicity here. Atomic transaction says one transaction can be either committed or not committed. At no point in time can you see the intermediate works of a transaction. So that is atomicity. Isolation of transaction says one transaction cannot see the work of another transaction until that transaction has finished. Durability, the D of the ACID says the database, when it says I have committed a transaction, that data should be available even in face of a crash. Even if the database crashes, if the machine crashes, after the recovery happens, after recovery, that data should be available because it was guaranteed to be committed. Concurrency is not required by ACID. That's just a note. So concurrency means running more than one transaction simultaneously. And there are some products out there now, I think Vertica, that says that, okay, at any one time only one transaction will be running. What that gives them is there is no need for locking, etc., to lock against concurrent visibility or to another transaction. So single transaction is not a mandate, like multiple transactions is not mandated by ACID properties. So you can have a database that gives you only one transaction at a time, and it will always suffice all the requirements by ACID. So the point here is both Oracle and Postgres are ACID compliant.
I would quibble on that.
Sure.
Oracle is the only major product out there which doesn't support true serializable transactions. So in order to enforce transaction isolation, you have to specifically code for that
Right.
at the application code level.
Right.
Which no other database requires it to do now.
Right. So point note. So one of the major components of ACID is the durability. That means in the face of a crash, you should be able to survive. You should be able to save your data. And that is implemented in Oracle through redo logs. And in Postgres, we have the same mechanism. That means write-ahead logs, any operation that modifies data has its write-ahead log, a piece of log already flushed to disk before any data gets modified. So in face of a crash, after a crash, in recovery, you can always replay your wall or redo and bring the database to a consistent state and recover all the lost transactions. So Oracle and Postgres both implement this. As a RDBMS, both products use relations and relational algebra. So that's what an RDBMS says. It is based in the relational theory that everything is a relation, you modify relations, you operate on relations, you get relations back from the database. So everything is a relation, and both the products use that. They both deviate slightly from the relational algebra, so if you're a relational algebra purist, so that's the SQL that deviates away from relational algebra, but both of them are equally culprit of deviating away from that. They both provide tables, views, triggers, the basic components of an RDBMS. They both support core constraints, that is primary key, foreign key, check constraints, and not null constraints. So you are in safe hands. If that's all that you need from your application perspective, tables, views, triggers, check constraints, and all, you are in safe hand even if you go with Postgres. Query optimizer in both the products is very advanced. In Oracle, the query optimizer, I worked as a query optimizer guy, and the query optimizer over there is humongous because they have accounted for every corner case that a query can throw at it. If this is the condition, then do that. If this is the condition, then do that. And at least in version 9, there was a 100-line if condition because it included all those bug fixes that I was talking. These are called events. So if you set an event, that affects your query optimizer also. So every bug that gets fixed has an event. An event can affect any different part of the product. And it's a great query optimizer because it gives you a great query plans based on the statistics, because that's all that it can do. That's all the information that it has. Oracle started with RBO, a rule-based optimizer that says, if you see this type of a query, then develop this type of a plan. It was kind of a templating thing. If it's a subquery and it doesn't have an aggregate, then you can merge it. If you have an union all, you can do that. So those things, those were the rules that the optimizer were based on. Then they moved on to CBO, the cost-based optimizer, that was developed based on the system R, the first relational database, production level database that was implemented by IBM. So I have read the white papers as part of my training at Oracle, white papers that were written by IBM. So it has the same foundations as system R, and Postgres also does the same thing. Postgres has cost-based optimizer. Every operation or every transformation that it tries to do, it associates a cost with that, saying, okay, this is the cost of doing this, and this is the cost of doing an alternative thing. And both the things give me the same result. Which one is cheaper? I'll use that. So that's the core foundation of both Oracle's and Postgres query optimizers. Oracle supports hints, Postgres does not. And as part of Enterprise DB, we support some minimal hints. So just a mention. Multi-master replication. Not replication, multi-master database. So you can have, Oracle has RAC, a real application cluster. They started with Oracle Parallel Server. I don't know much of the history about it, but it's just anecdotes that I can go with, and it says Oracle Parallel Server had terrible performance until they moved to Cache Fusion. That was a new technology that they developed, and Cache Fusion helps them to show a consistent view of the buffer cache of the Oracle database so that two nodes can operate on the same buffer cache. And that has given them the great performance. Some might argue with that, but RAC works for many cases. RAC, I don't know the numbers, I think 27 node or maybe 30 node cluster is the current market leader or benchmark, TPCC benchmark leader on TPCC organization. And the cost of that setup was $27 million. Of those $27 million, to achieve that record transactions of TPCC, $17 million was software cost only. The TPCC benchmark mandates that you include the cost of software and 3 years recurring support contracts and all. So according to that, it says 17 million is the cost of buying the software for that setup, and rest of the 10 million was to buy the hardware. So that it is that expensive to achieve those performance numbers and all. So rack is a solution, but do you really need it? Do you really want it? That's the question you should be asking. One of the requirements of rack is that your application should be scalable. Rack is not automatically going to give you scalability, because if your application does not perform operations in a way that the database can scale on those, your application is not going to get major performance boost from rack. What it says is that if you add more cores to your database and your application can do more transactions per second, that means your application can be ported over to rack and expect to get better performance, because your application is scalable. If your application is not scalable on a single node, multi-CPU machine with more CPUs, you don't get any performance boost from rack. Multi-master in Postgres, we don't have it. That's the plain and simple truth about it. We don't have it. Bucardo is a replication solution, multi-master replication solution that might address your problems, but it is conflict-based resolution, and also, yeah, you are free to go and research more about it. Currently, there is a project underway that's called Postgres XC, that is Extensible Cluster. It aims to provide write scalable, shade nothing architecture, which means you can add more nodes to the setup and expect to get write scalability. That means your write queries, insert, update, deletes will get better performance. It is open source. It's being developed out in the open. It's based on a collaboration between NTT Japan and Enterprise DB, and ETA is 2013 or so. Still not solid. Yes. Yes. So it has a central lock manager, transaction manager and all. So it has high availability components being built into it that will allow it to spread the data across multiple nodes. And the data queries or part of the queries will be ported over to the other nodes. Yeah, I'm going to attend that. So it's an exciting piece of technology. High availability, Oracle provides Data Guard. It works in two modes. It's redo apply or the redo logs apply. That means a physical copy of the database, or a SQL apply. That means it generates SQL queries out of your redo logs, applies them. It's not a physical copy, but it's almost the same thing. Redo apply in TenG has a limitation that either you can run it in read-only mode. That means there's no redo being applied. That means you are behind in the redo application, or you can keep going in the recovery mode. That means your database is up to date with the master. So either or with TenG. The new feature that they developed was called Active Data Guard, and it allows read-only connections while recovery is in progress. But this again has some limitations. Their own products, some of their own products are not known to work with that. One of the blog posts that I read about it is eBusiness Suite. Even if it is doing read-only queries, only report generation and all, that cannot work with Active Data Guard, although it allows read-only connections, because eBusiness Suite requires some minimal amount of writing in any case. They have also a product called Data Guard Broker that allows you to manage standby databases, hot standbys and the warm standbys, or the physical the data guard standbys, and it is supposed to ease your management of the standbys. In case of a failure of a master or a failure of a slave, or sorry, of a secondary, it can perform operations that are supposed to keep your application running smoothly. SQL apply does not work with many database object types. Specifically, any object that is under sys schema cannot be replayed onto a standby using SQL apply. Other object types are bfile, RowID, URowID. Oracle Spatial is a product from Oracle that doesn't work with SQL apply. So it has its own limitations. Other thing I would like to note is although Data Guard is available as enterprise edition, but the active Data Guard is a separate option, so you have to buy more to use active Data Guard to make your physical standby be available in read-only mode. For high availability in Postgres, you have streaming replication that was introduced in version 9.0 last year. It is equivalent to Oracle's redo apply, and it's basically a physical copy of your database. The other feature that many people try to confuse with the same thing, streaming replication is a different feature, and separate feature is called, another feature is called hot standby. This feature allows your standby to be available in read-only mode, so you can run read-only queries on the database. So these are two separate features that were developed as part of 9.0. Sometimes people get them confused, saying, okay, it's just streaming replication. It's not. It's streaming replication is a separate feature. Hot standby is a separate feature. No equivalent of SQL apply. So the other feature that we talked about in Data Guard, SQL apply, is not available here. If you want SQL apply kind of a feature, you can go with trigger-based replication solutions like Sloaney, Bucardo, Londeste. They all have triggers, like they create triggers on the objects, they log their queries, and those queries can be shipped over to the standbys. From my knowledge, Sloaney works with all data object types. Unlike the SQL apply of Data Guard, it works with everything that Postgres can throw at it except for one feature called large objects. And that's a feature that I have seldom seen anybody use. No equivalent of Data Guard Broker, that means easy management or tools to manage your standbys, that is missing in Postgres. But I'm not sure. I've heard of it. I wanted to follow up on it, but I could not. So I'm not sure. I cannot answer that. So, anybody else who knows about that rep MGR by second quadrant?
I was wondering how much of the same ground it covers. It's at least similar. I don't know exactly how well it manages.
Okay. So it's supposed to be similar, but yeah. With version 9.1 that was released a few days ago, maybe 3 or 4, we have synchronous replication, and better synchronous replication than any other product. We can control synchronicity of replication at transaction level. Instead of mandating that every transaction that is committed gets replicated onto the standby, we can control which transactions get synchronously replicated, whereas the other transactions can be left behind, not left behind, but they can be asynchronously committed. So that's a great feature that comes with 9.1, and that's a crucial part from high availability perspective. Data partitioning. Oracle provides data partitioning, built-in syntax, built-in commands to create partitions of your tables. You can spread your partitions across multiple disks and all to increase performance. It provides list, hash, and range partitioning. Very advanced product, very advanced feature, but it requires enterprise edition. So it's not available for free. It's not available in your Express edition. It is integrated with the query optimizer. That means the query optimizer in Oracle knows about all this partitioning thing. It says, okay, if the data is partitioned in such and such way, I can optimize my plans to suit that. Even Oracle has a feature called parallel queries. That means it can spawn multiple processes to scan the same table or scan the indexes and gather the data back. That is also aware of the data partitioning. In Postgres, we don't have any syntactical sugar. That means we don't have a syntax that says create a table with 10 partitions or range partition or list partition. But we have some rudimentary support of partitioning. So there are 3 features that have to be used to get to the partitioning. First is the table inheritance. So you create one table as a parent, all the partitions as its children. You put proper check constraints on the proper columns based on which you are partitioning. So let's say for a list partition or hash partition, you should put appropriate check constraints. And then there is a parameter called constraint_exclusion. You set it to on or partition for the latest versions. And then your where clause should specifically use such a condition that matches with the check constraint. So if it matches with that check constraint, That means it won't match with other partitions check constraints. So it will scan only the partition that the where clause is looking for. So that improves your performance quite significantly because you don't have to scan all the partitions, but these are the things you have to put in place to make use of data partitioning. So nothing automatic, but you can get that feature. Geospatial product, Oracle has it. Oracle got it from Canadian research. They collaborated with them. They got the product from them, but they had to revamp it over to re-implement it with better type of indexes, better storage and all. But again, the thing is it's a separate product. You have to buy it. It's not available for free. It has special index types. It costs extra, one additional license for using spatial. Probably it doesn't play well with other licenses, so you have to evaluate whether one spatial license is enough for all your sites or not, whether when you're buying a data guard, whether it is compatible for that or not, or maybe you have to buy additional license for your data guard or physical standby, those things. It does not work with certain other features like data guard SQL apply because it uses special storage on disk that the data guard's SQL apply is not aware of. It cannot reconstruct queries probably for that, and it cannot reapply those to the standby nodes. Geospatial for Postgres, you have a free open source product called PostGIS, but it is GPL based, not BSD. Being a different product, that's not a problem. It's an add-on, it's an external module. That means it does not have anything special for itself inside Postgres. It uses only the features or the facilities provided by Postgres. So anywhere that Postgres can run, PostGIS can run for you. And the upside of that is that if you have PostGIS installation on a Postgres, if you have a streaming replication, it will work with that. If you have Slowney, it will work with that. Everything comes with that. It uses special indexes provided by Postgres, GIST and GIN indexes. You can choose which one to use. It is bundled with Postgres plus a standard server. That comes for free. So if you download just the Postgres, you won't get PostGIS with it. You have to download it separately, install it as an add-on. That's also easy, not a problem. But Postgres plus standard server provides it as a bundle, and you can start using it right away. Full text search, another advanced feature. Oracle had like different kinds of products. They still have those intermedia, ultra search, or maybe just text. So they also come with Enterprise Edition only, and it can document even documents or the media files outside of your database. Full text search in Postgres, it has an extensive feature set. That means anything that you can expect from a full text search like Lucene engine or everything, it's implemented inside the database. Your documents reside inside the database. They are transactionally maintained. Your transactions can see or not see based on their own the transaction semantics. So it does not use any special features that are required for it. It's plain a core feature integrated into Postgres. It's not even an add-on. It's integrated inside the core product. It can divide a document into 4 sections that you can assign relevance to. So the title of a document, the subject of a document, or the first paragraph or the second paragraph, those things. You can sort, you can perform queries on the full text on these documents, and the results can be sorted based on relevance. So you can get results just like you'd get on Google and all. So you get the most relevant results at the top. You can create FTS indexes on concatenated columns, something just to integrate it. Can be integrated with external tables. So we have SQL-mid implementations now called management of external data. And we can even scan the external tables or documents that are stored outside the database and store this metadata inside so that we can perform searches on them and provide results. A few other features. Postgres has transactional DDL that Oracle does not. Anytime you perform an alter table or create table or anything, it commits your transaction. Whether or not you asked for it, your transaction is committed. But in Postgres, you can begin a transaction, you can do a host of DDL. At the end of it, if you don't like it, you can go and say, okay, I roll back it on. There are certain operations like create a database, vacuuming of a table or a database. Those operations cannot be performed in a transaction, but otherwise pretty much everything can be in a transaction, and it will be visible only when the transaction gets committed. Postgres supports a myriad of languages for creating stored procedures and functions and triggers. PL/PG/SQL is the default language available. You have PL/Perl, PL/PHP, you have PL/Java, TCL, PL/R if you are into analytics and all. So every kind of major language is supported to create your own stored procedures. They are stored in the database. You can create triggers using that, saying, okay, if something happens on my table, I want this Java procedure to be executed or this TCL procedure to be executed. You can always code up your own add-ons in C because it has a whole architecture to develop add-ons or contrib modules as we call it. And they perform the best. They are just pure C interfaces, and they just work for let's say some kind of media transformations or MP3 file generation or concatenating of two video files that you have stored in the database. Everything can be done within Postgres using C modules. Oracle has on-disk bitmap indexes that are crucial for data warehousing. They provide a humongous performance improvement in data warehousing solutions. They also have something called join indexes. When you are performing join between two tables, you can pre-index that join, and that index can be used when you are joining those two tables separately. So those features are missing from Postgres as of now. Postgres has in-memory bitmap indexes. That means it can scan a current index, create a bitmap of it in memory, use that for faster retrieval of data, but after the query is finished, you have to redo it again for the next query. Both the products now have updatable views. With PG 9.1, we have triggers on views. So you can create a trigger on view that will emulate as if this view is not a view itself, it's just a table that pushes the data across to the base tables. Postgres has a unique feature called exclusion constraints. That's again very specific feature. Generally, I think not available in other products. I'm not sure about that, but it's a very pretty advanced feature. It offloads certain responsibilities from your application onto database itself. So now your whole schema can contain those logics that you would have to otherwise do in your application. So if I have succeeded in convincing you to migrate over to Postgres from Oracle, there are various ways to go about that. Enterprise DB has extensive services to perform migration. We have automated tools. Most of the times these tools work for you. They are just point and click, saying, okay, migrate this stored procedure, function, table, data, etc. And if you are into open source, if you want to use open source solutions, you have Aura2PG, a free open source package. You can customize it for your own needs. If it doesn't fit your needs, you can add to that, probably contribute it back to the community. You have AuraFC, a set of packages of functions that give you the dual table, some other functions that are not available in Postgres. It provides basically the syntactic sugar most of the time. Tora is an old product, another open source project, I think, which allows you to do migrations. And then you can always go for your own custom migrations. Sometimes it's not possible to do the full-fledged migrations on automation. So in those cases, you can go for custom migrations too. So with that, I think we come to the end of the talk. Any questions? People have been asking for that for a very long time. And it's just that the infrastructure to build on that, it's a bit complicated to build in. But Dave, if you can answer that, I mean, what is the community's view on that? The question was, any plans to integrate parallel execution into Postgres?
It's something that's been talked about a lot, but nobody's really committed serious amounts of time to yet. One of the problems is end is single-threaded, so anything we might try and do that's multi-threaded is going to be a huge project to make the back end thread safe. There has been discussion about building worker processes to do parallel reads, but again, nobody's actually sat down and come up with a formal design as of yet. One of the plus sides, though, is that because Postgres is single-threaded, you have one back end per connection. You do get a certain amount of parallelism between connections, in that you can have obviously each of multiple back ends running in parallel. You just don't get parallelism within a single connection.
File query, things like using things like connection implementation, like file scan, file real partitions, enable a single query.
Yeah, that does need work.
One thing you didn't mention that I was a little surprised about was that I've been impressed with the pluggable, how pluggable Postgres is. Adding your own data types, adding your own operators.
Yeah.
It's even relatively easy, although not quite as pluggable, to add new index types. Does Oracle have similar capabilities?
No. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah. So Oracle is very extensible. You can create custom operators, custom data types. You can create custom data types in Oracle, but you cannot create operators that operate on current data types. You have objects. You can create member operators within those objects. But Oracle, with Postgres, you can create additional operators that you want to operate on, let's say, common basic data types, or even the data types that you have created as compound objects. So apart from those operators, you have contrib modules that you can add on, because Postgres provides all those plugin points where you can take over control from Postgres, saying, okay, this is something that I can do better. I will write a plugin to do that. One good example of that is an index advisor. So the query optimizer provides you a hook saying that, okay, if you're not happy with the query optimizer I have, I'll give you the control. So if you can develop your own query optimizer, you can plug it in. So what our index optimizer does there is, it gets control from query optimizer, it does some calculations, calls the query optimizer twice, and provides the index advice for you. So it's very pluggable and very extensible from various aspects. So you can write your own C store procedures, you can write simple, which you can call from SQL itself. So you can say, select my own data type wrapped in my own function. It will do something within the database, commit the transaction. So yes, Postgres allows all of those things, but not Oracle. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much for attending.